Welcome. If you're here, it's probably because sleep hasn't been coming easily and you're looking for something that might actually help. Not another article you skim and forget, not another list you read with your phone screen lighting up your face at midnight, but something you can simply lie down with. Close your eyes and let wash over you while your body starts to settle. This is exactly that. Tonight, I'm going to walk you through 100 different ways to fall asleep faster and sleep better. Gently, slowly, without rushing. The way you'd want someone to share something this important with you. Some of these ideas you'll already know, some might be new. None of them require you to get up, write anything down, or do anything active right now. You can simply listen. Let the ideas land where they land. Let your body start trying some of them out automatically, the way it does when you hear something that makes sense to it at a level below conscious thought. My name is Clara, and tonight isn't really about 100 separate tips. It's about something more like 100 doors, all leading toward the same room. The room where your mind finally quiets and your body finally lets go and sleep, real and deep and restorative, finally arrives. You don't have to walk through every door. You just have to be here, listening, breathing, while we walk past them together. And by the time we're through, or honestly, long before we're through, you'll likely already be asleep. That's not a failure of the process. That's the process working exactly as it should. So let's begin. Get comfortable now. Settle into your bed the way you'd settle into the safest, most familiar place you know. Let your shoulders drop. Let your eyes close. And let's start at the very beginning with the most fundamental idea in all of sleep science, the one underneath everything else we'll talk about tonight. The first way to fall asleep faster is to stop trying so hard to fall asleep. This sounds almost like a riddle, but it's one of the best supported findings in all of sleep research. The harder you try to force sleep, the more alert and activated your nervous system becomes, because trying is itself a kind of effort, and effort is the opposite of the surrender that sleep requires. So tonight, let go of trying. You're not here to accomplish sleep. You're just here to rest, and if sleep comes, wonderful. And if it takes a little while, that's fine too, because you're resting either way. The second way is to keep your bedroom cool. Your body's core temperature naturally drops as you move toward sleep, and a cooler room, somewhere around 65 degrees Fahrenheit for most people, supports that natural drop rather than fighting against it. If your room feels warm right now, just notice that and know that tomorrow you might experiment with the thermostat or a fan. The third way is to keep the room as dark as possible. Light, even small amounts, suppresses the production of melatonin, your body's natural sleep hormone. If there's a light from a hallway or a device blinking somewhere in your room, you might address that tomorrow. Tonight, just notice the dark you do have and let your eyes rest in it. The fourth way is to give yourself a consistent wake time, even on weekends. Your circadian rhythm, the internal clock that governs your sleep and wake cycles, responds more to a stable wake time than a stable bedtime, which seems counterintuitive, but is well established in the research. The body anchors itself to when you get up, and everything else tends to follow from there. The fifth way is to get natural light exposure within the first hour of waking. Morning light is one of the most powerful signals you can give your circadian rhythm, telling your internal clock that the day has begun and setting in motion the entire hormonal cascade that will, 16 or so hours later, make you sleepy at the right time. The sixth way is to limit caffeine after midday because caffeine has a half-life of around 5 to 6 hours in most people, meaning that a cup of coffee at 2 in the afternoon still has a meaningful amount of caffeine in your system at 8 that evening, quietly keeping your nervous system a little more alert than it would otherwise be. The seventh way is to avoid large meals close to bedtime, since digestion requires energy and blood flow that can interfere with the body's ability to fully relax and lower its core temperature, both of which are part of the normal sleep onset process. The eighth way is to avoid alcohol close to bedtime. Alcohol might make you feel drowsy initially, but it disrupts the second half of the night's sleep architecture, reducing REM sleep and causing more frequent awakenings, even if you don't remember them. The ninth way is to get regular physical activity during the day, ideally not too close to bedtime, since exercise improves sleep quality through multiple mechanisms, reducing stress hormones, regulating body temperature rhythms, and simply using up physical energy that might otherwise keep you restless. The 10th way is to reserve your bed for sleep and intimacy only, training your brain to associate the bed itself with rest rather than with working, scrolling, or worrying, so that simply lying down becomes its own kind of cue for sleepiness. Let those first 10 settle in for a moment. Notice if your body is already responding, already a little heavier, already a little more willing to let go, just from hearing these ideas spoken slowly into the dark. The 11th way is to create a wind-down routine that you follow most nights, because predictability itself is calming to the nervous system. The brain loves a sequence it recognizes, and a consistent pre-sleep routine becomes, over time, almost like a hypnotic cue, signaling to your whole system that sleep is coming. The 12th way is to dim the lights in your home an hour or two before bed, mimicking the natural dimming of sunset and supporting your body's melatonin production rather than working against it with bright artificial light. The 13th way is to put your phone away, not just silenced, but physically out of reach, because the mere presence of a phone, even unused, has been shown to increase a kind of background vigilance, a small but real cognitive pull that interferes with full relaxation. The 14th way is to try a warm bath or shower an hour or so before bed. As your body cools down afterward, that drop in temperature mimics and supports the natural temperature decline associated with sleep onset, helping you fall asleep more easily. The 15th way is to keep a notepad by your bed for those moments when a thought won't let go, a task you suddenly remember, an idea you don't want to lose. Writing it down, even in just a few words, allows your mind to release it rather than continuing to circle around remembering it. The 16th way is to practice the 4-7-8 breathing technique. Breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 7, and exhale slowly for 8. This pattern, used in various breathing traditions for centuries and studied more recently for its calming effects, helps activate your parasympathetic nervous system through the extended exhale. The 17th way is to try progressive muscle relaxation, tensing, and then releasing each muscle group in your body, starting at your feet and working upward, which helps you notice tension you might not consciously realize you're holding and gives your body something concrete to release. The 18th way is to avoid checking the time if you wake in the night. Clock watching tends to increase anxiety about sleep, which paradoxically makes falling back asleep harder. If you wake, simply turn away from any visible clock and return your attention to your breath. The 19th way is to use white noise or a fan if your environment has unpredictable sounds, since consistent background noise can mask sudden noises that might otherwise startle you awake, while itself being unobtrusive enough not to disturb sleep on its own. The 20th way is to consider your mattress and pillow if either is old, worn, or simply wrong for your body. No amount of mental technique will fully compensate for physical discomfort working against you all night. You're 20 ideas in now, and notice you might be feeling a particular kind of comfortable heaviness already, the kind that comes not from any single idea, but from the accumulated effect of hearing all of them slowly in this calm voice, with nothing required of you but to listen. The 21st way is to try a consistent pre-sleep stretch, gentle and slow, focusing especially on your neck, shoulders, and lower back, the places most people carry the physical residue of a day's tension. The 22nd way is to limit fluid intake in the hour before bed, simply to reduce the likelihood of waking for a bathroom trip in the middle of the night, which can fragment your sleep architecture, even if the interruption itself feels brief. The 23rd way is to try aromatherapy, particularly lavender, which has some research support for promoting relaxation and improved sleep quality, possibly through its effects on the part of the brain involved in emotional regulation. The 24th way is to keep your bedroom for sleep alone, removing the television if you can, since a screen in the bedroom creates a strong association between the space and wakeful stimulation rather than rest. The 25th way is to try the military method, a technique reportedly used by soldiers to fall asleep quickly even in stressful conditions. Relax your face completely, drop your shoulders, exhale, and let your chest go loose. Relax your legs and clear your mind for 10 seconds by imagining a peaceful scene, repeating if needed. The 26th way is to practice gratitude before sleep, mentally listing a few things you're thankful for from the day. This shifts your nervous system away from threat scanning and toward a more settled, contented state, which is far more conducive to sleep than reviewing what went wrong. The 27th way is to avoid intense or stimulating conversations right before bed, since emotional activation, Even positive excitement raises your physiological arousal in ways that work against the calm needed for sleep onset. The 28th way is to try journaling for a few minutes before bed, not extensively, just enough to externalize anything that's been circling in your mind, giving it a place to exist outside of your head. The 29th way is to use the technique of cognitive shuffling, where you think of a random, neutral word and then imagine and describe images associated with each letter, which occupies the analytical mind just enough to prevent anxious thought spirals without being stimulating itself. The 30th way is to limit naps to 20 minutes or less, and ideally before 3 in the afternoon, since longer or later naps can interfere with your ability to fall asleep at your regular bedtime. 30 ideas now, and if you're like most people listening to something like this, your mind has probably stopped trying to remember each one individually and has started simply receiving the rhythm of it, the calm, steady cadence of one idea after another, none of them urgent, none of them demanding anything more than your passive attention. That's exactly right. Let your mind do that. Let it stop grasping and just listen. The 31st way is to keep your bedroom uncluttered, since visual clutter has been shown in some studies to correlate with increased cortisol and a harder time settling into a relaxed state, while an orderly space supports a calmer baseline. The 32nd way is to try a heavier blanket, sometimes called a weighted blanket, which provides deep pressure stimulation that many people find calming, similar to the effect of a firm hug, helping activate the parasympathetic nervous system. The 33rd way is to avoid working in bed during the day, even briefly, to protect the strong mental association between your bed and sleep, rather than diluting it with wakeful activity. The 34th way is to try reading a physical book rather than a screen before bed, since the blue light emitted by phones and tablets suppresses melatonin production more than the ambient light of a room with a lamp and a paperback. The 35th way is to keep consistent meal times during the day, since your digestive rhythms are intertwined with your circadian rhythm, and irregular eating patterns can subtly disrupt your overall sleep-wake cycle. The 36th way is to try a consistent temperature for your hands and feet. Some people find that wearing socks to bed by keeping the extremities warm paradoxically helps the core body cool more efficiently, which supports sleep onset. The 37th way is to limit screen use generally in the evening, not just immediately before bed, since the cumulative blue light exposure across an evening of scrolling has a measurable effect on total melatonin production. The 38th way is to try a sleep mask if you can't fully control the light in your room, blocking out street light, early dawn light, or any other source that might be subtly working against your body's natural dark-triggered sleep signals. The 39th way is to avoid intense exercise within a few hours of bedtime, since vigorous activity raises core body temperature and adrenaline in ways that can take hours to fully settle, working against the temperature drop sleep onset requires. The 40th way is to try the visualization technique of imagining yourself in a peaceful, specific place, not vague, but detailed. The exact color of the water, the exact sound of the wind, the exact temperature of the air, because specificity occupies the mind more completely than vague imagery, leaving less room for anxious thoughts to intrude. 40 now. And here, in the middle of this list, in the middle of this night, I want to pause the practical tips for just a moment and speak to something deeper, because I think it matters and I think you might need to hear it. All of these techniques, the breathing, the temperature, the light, the routines, they are good and they are real and they work, supported by real research and real physiology. But underneath all the technique, there is something else that affects sleep just as profoundly, and that is the state of your heart, the weight you're carrying, the worry that doesn't have a name, the sense which so many people carry without saying it out loud that they are ultimately on their own, managing everything with no one really holding the bigger picture while they sleep. I want to tell you something that I believe completely, something that I think belongs here, in the middle of this practical list, because it is just as practical in its own way as anything about your room temperature or your caffeine intake. You are not alone in carrying tonight. There is a love that has known your name since before you had one, a love that does not depend on you having your life figured out, that does not wait for you to be better, rested, or more disciplined or more accomplished before it reaches toward you. Jesus loves you right now, in this exact moment, with whatever exhaustion or worry or restlessness you brought into this bed tonight. He loves the version of you that can't sleep as much as the version that sleeps easily. He loves the version of you that has tried everything and still lies awake some nights, wondering what's wrong, even though nothing is wrong with you. Your body and mind are simply doing what bodies and minds do when life has asked a great deal of them. He said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." That invitation includes tonight. It includes this specific tiredness, whatever its source, a hard season, an ordinary accumulation of stress, a nervous system that has simply forgotten how to stand down. The peace he offers is not contingent on you doing everything right. It's freely given, the way grace is always freely given, available the moment you're willing to receive it, and he can save you, not only in the eternal sense, though that matters more than anything else ever could, but also in the smaller, immediate sense of saving you from the lie that you are managing everything alone, that there is no one larger than your worry holding the world steady while you rest. There is, and that knowledge, received quietly in the dark, can do something that no amount of technique alone can do. It can let you exhale completely, the way you exhale when you finally hand something heavy to someone stronger than you. Someone who has been asking to carry it the whole time. Let that truth settle into you for a moment. You are loved. You are held. You are not managing this alone, and it is safe, completely safe, to close your eyes and rest. Now let's continue with the practical ways, because both things are true at once. The love that holds you and the simple, physical, embodied steps that help your body remember how to rest. The 41st way is to try a consistent bedtime ritual involving your senses. The same calming scent, the same soft texture, the same quiet sound each night, building a multi-sensory cue that your nervous system learns to associate powerfully with the transition to sleep. The 40-second way is to limit your exposure to upsetting news or content in the evening, since emotionally charged information, even when it's not personally threatening, activates the same stress response systems that interfere with sleep onset. The 43rd way is to try a body scan meditation, moving your attention slowly through each part of your body and consciously releasing tension as you go, which both relaxes the body directly and gives the mind something gentle and structured to focus on instead of worry. The 44th way is to keep your bedroom for rest and intimacy only, removing exercise equipment, work materials, or anything else that creates competing associations with the space. The 45th way is to try chamomile tea in the evening, which has mild calming properties that some research suggests may support relaxation, though its effect is gentle rather than dramatic, more of a small additional support than a primary solution. The 46th way is to practice box breathing, inhaling for 4 counts, holding for 4, exhaling for 4, holding for 4. A simple, easy to remember pattern that calms the nervous system through its rhythmic predictability. The 47th way is to try the technique of paradoxical intention, where instead of trying to fall asleep, you gently try to stay awake with your eyes closed, removing the pressure of trying to sleep, which often allows sleep to arrive more easily, since the effort of staying awake is itself relaxing in a strange and counterintuitive way. The 48th way is to limit the use of sleep tracking devices if checking your sleep data has become its own source of anxiety, since obsessively monitoring your sleep can paradoxically increase the anxiety that interferes with sleep itself, a phenomenon sometimes called orthosomnia. The 49th way is to try humming or gentle vocal toning before bed, which can stimulate the vagus nerve through the vibration in your throat and chest, supporting a shift toward parasympathetic calm. The 50th way is to maintain a consistent and calming evening routine even when traveling, helping your body recognize the cues for sleep regardless of the unfamiliar environment around you. 50 now, halfway through. And by this point, if your body has been listening the way bodies listen, not with analysis, but with simple accumulating relaxation, you may already be drifting closer to sleep than you were when we began. That's wonderful. That's exactly what's supposed to happen. You don't need to stay alert for the rest of these. You can simply let your awareness soften. Let the words become more like a gentle murmur than a list, and let sleep come whenever it's ready to come. The 51st way is to try the 10-3-2-1-0 rule. No caffeine within 10 hours of bedtime. No food or alcohol within 3 hours. No work within 2 hours. No screens within 1 hour. And 0 times hitting snooze in the morning. A structured countdown that many people find easier to follow than vaguer guidelines. The 52nd way is to keep your sleep environment associated only with comfort, removing anything visually stressful or reminiscent of unfinished tasks. like a stack of bills on the nightstand or a laundry pile in the corner. The 53rd way is to try guided imagery, specifically involving slow, repetitive movement. Imagining walking along a quiet shoreline or floating gently on calm water. Since rhythmic, repetitive imagery tends to be more sleep-inducing than static scenes. The 54th way is to address any pain or physical discomfort proactively before bed, whether through stretching, a heating pad, or whatever has worked for you before. Since unaddressed physical discomfort is one of the most common and underappreciated barriers to falling asleep. The 55th way is to try a consistent affirmation or phrase you repeat softly to yourself as you settle in. Something simple like, "I am safe, I am held, I can rest now," which, repeated nightly, becomes its own kind of conditioned cue for relaxation. The 56th way is to keep your evening routine free of major decisions, since decision-making activates the prefrontal cortex in ways that work against the disengagement sleep requires. So save important choices for the morning when possible. The 57th way is to try cool, breathable bedding, since fabric that traps heat can work against your body's natural cooling process during sleep onset. The 58th way is to limit intense or suspenseful entertainment in the evening. Certain shows or films designed to keep your attention through tension and anticipation can leave your nervous system activated long after the screen turns off. The 59th way is to try a consistent low-level background sound like rain sounds or soft instrumental music if silence itself feels uncomfortable or makes you more aware of intrusive thoughts. The 60th way is to practice self-compassion about sleep itself, recognizing that one restless night doesn't define your overall health and that anxiety about not sleeping is often more disruptive than the lack of sleep itself. 60 now, and I want you to notice, if you can, however faintly, that some of what's happening right now isn't really about which specific tip resonates most. It's about the cumulative experience of being spoken to, slowly, kindly, for a long time, without urgency, without demand. Your nervous system has been receiving that experience this whole time, underneath the content of the words, and it has been responding the way nervous systems respond to sustained, gentle, unhurried presence, by settling, by trusting, by beginning gradually to let go. The 61st way is to try a consistent, gentle yoga sequence in the evening, specifically poses associated with relaxation rather than strength or stretching intensity, like child's pose or legs up the wall, which activate the parasympathetic nervous system through gentle, supported positions. The 62nd way is to keep your room as quiet as possible, addressing any sources of disruptive noise, whether that means earplugs, addressing a noisy appliance, or simply closing a door that's been left open to a louder part of the house. The 63rd way is to try the technique of mentally retracing your day in reverse order from the most recent moment backward to waking up, which occupies working memory in a structured, low-stimulation way that tends to ease the mind toward sleep rather than activate it. The 64th way is to limit your evening exposure to bright overhead lighting in favor of warmer, lower lamps, since color temperature affects melatonin production almost as much as overall brightness does. The 65th way is to try a few minutes of gentle self-massage before bed, particularly on your hands, feet, or temples, which can release physical tension and create a soothing, embodied transition toward rest. The 66th way is to avoid ruminating on tomorrow's to-do list while lying in bed, instead using the notepad technique mentioned earlier, writing down a brief reminder and trusting that the list will still be there, fully intact, in the morning. The 67th way is to try the visualization of a descending staircase, imagining yourself walking slowly downward, counting each step, with the simple suggestion that each step takes you deeper into relaxation, a classic and well-tested hypnotic technique for sleep induction. The 68th way is to keep your evening hydration balanced, not excessive, but also not so restricted that thirst itself becomes a distraction as you're trying to fall asleep. The 69th way is to try a fixed wind-down sequence that includes brushing your teeth, washing your face, and any other simple physical ritual, since the body responds strongly to sequence and repetition as cues for what comes next. The 70th way is to address bedroom air quality, since stuffy or poor quality air can subtly disrupt sleep, while fresh, well-circulated air supports easier, deeper breathing throughout the night. 70 now. 30 more to go, though by this point, the exact count matters less than the experience of simply being carried along. The way a person floating on calm water doesn't count the waves, just feels the general, ongoing motion of being held and moved gently forward. The 71st way is to try keeping your feet outside the blanket